The bridge of the UNSC Defiance fell silent as Captain Maya Rodriguez finished reading the alien message. Admiral Lucas Grant stared at the holographic display showing the translated text. The words glowed blue against the dark space beyond the ship's windows. "Read it again, Captain," Grant said. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the armrests of his command chair. Rodriguez cleared her throat. "The message is from the Corvani High Command. It says, 'Inferior species known as humans. You have 30 standard days to remove all presence from star systems beyond your origin point. Failure to comply will result in cleansing protocols. This warning is given once. The Corvani Empire has spoken." Lieutenant Ben Crawford at the communications station looked up from his console. "Sir, we're receiving the same message on all frequencies. It's broadcasting to every human colony simultaneously." Grant stood and walked to the main display. The star map showed 12 human colonies scattered across the outer rim. Each one represented millions of lives, families who had traveled for years to reach new worlds. Children born under alien suns who had never seen Earth. "Cleansing protocols." Grant repeated the phrase. "What do our xenology reports say about that term?" Dr. Elena Vasquez stepped forward from her position near the science stations. She was the fleet's expert on alien species. "Admiral, we've seen references to cleansing protocols in our study of former Corvani territory. Entire star systems left empty. No survivors. No ruins. Nothing but bare planets." The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. Everyone knew the Corvani Empire controlled vast areas of space. They had been expanding for over 2,000 years. But no one had ever seen them offer terms before. They simply destroyed anything in their path. On the frontier world of New Denver, Jake Morrison stood in the colony's main communication center. The emergency meeting had been called within minutes of receiving the alien ultimatum. The room was packed with colony leaders, scientists, and worried civilians. 30 days, Morrison said, looking around the room. They want us gone in 30 days. Dr. Lisa Morrison, Jake's daughter, stepped forward. She was young but respected for her work studying the local ecosystem. "Dad, we can't just leave. We've spent 8 years building this place. The research facilities, the agricultural centers, the homes where people live." "Lisa, you heard the message," Jake replied. "These aliens have destroyed entire civilizations. We have families to protect." An older man named Bill Tucker raised his hand. He ran the mining operations in the northern continent. "Jake, my teams have found mineral deposits worth billions. If we leave now, we lose everything. If we stay, we might lose our lives," Jake answered. Lisa walked to the window overlooking the main settlement. New Denver stretched for kilometers in every direction. Children played in parks designed by human architects. Farmers worked fields growing earth crops in alien soil. "This is our home now," she said quietly. "These people didn't come here to visit. They came here to live." Back on Earth, President Karen Walsh sat in the Situation Room deep beneath the Capitol building. The emergency session had been running for 6 hours. Military advisors filled every seat around the long table. General Pete Carter pointed to the holographic display showing known Corvani fleet positions. "Madam President, our intelligence suggests they have over 3,000 ships in this sector alone. Our entire colonial defense fleet has maybe 200 vessels." "What about their technology?" Walsh asked. "Superior in every way," Carter replied. "Their weapons cut through our shields like paper. Their armor deflects most of our weapons. A direct military confrontation would be suicide." Secretary of Defense Nancy Phillips leaned forward. "We have to consider evacuation. 12 colonies, roughly 15 million people. It would be the largest civilian rescue operation in human history, but it's possible." Walsh studied the faces around the table. These were experienced leaders who had guided humanity through wars, disasters, and the challenges of interstellar colonization, but she could see the defeat in their eyes. "What does the Colonial Council say?" Walsh asked. Admiral Grant's image appeared on the main screen via quantum communication link. "Madam President, I've spoken with every colonial government. They're scared, but they're also angry. These people didn't spend years traveling through space just to run at the first threat. Admiral, you understand the military situation? General Carter interrupted. We cannot win a conventional war against the Corvani. With respect, General, you're thinking like a military strategist, Grant replied. But this isn't about military victory. It's about who we are as a species. President Walsh stood and walked to the large window overlooking the city. Earth's first city still bustled with life 24 hours a day. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and the challenges of reaching the stars. Admiral Grant, what's your recommendation? She asked. Fight, Grant said without hesitation. Not because we can win, but because some things are worth fighting for even when victory seems impossible. The room fell silent. Secretary Phillips spoke first. Madam President, that's 15 million lives we're talking about. No, Walsh replied, turning back to face the room. It's 15 million people who chose to leave everything they knew to build something new among the stars. If we abandon them now, we abandon everything humanity stands for. Dr. Vasquez's voice came through the communication link from the Defiance. Madam President, our analysis of Corvani behavior suggests they've never encountered resistance like this. Every species they've contacted has either submitted immediately or been destroyed quickly. They have no experience with prolonged conflict. Walsh nodded slowly. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare a response to the Corvani Empire and schedule a broadcast to all colonies. 3 hours later, President Walsh stood before the cameras in the White House press room. But she wasn't speaking to Earth. Her words were being transmitted simultaneously to every human colony across 12 star systems. My fellow humans, she began. Today we received a message from an alien empire demanding our withdrawal from the worlds we've made our homes. They've given us 30 days to pack up 8 years of dreams, hopes, and hard work. They expect us to abandon the schools where our children learn, the farms where we grow our food, and the communities we've built with our own hands. She paused, looking directly into the camera. But we didn't crawl out of caves, cross oceans, and reach for the stars only to retreat at the first sign of a bully. We didn't send our bravest and brightest to distant worlds so they could run home. When faced with a challenge, humanity stands its ground. On New Denver, Jake Morrison watched the broadcast with his daughter, and hundreds of other colonists gathered in the town square. When Walsh finished speaking, the crowd stood in silence for a long moment. Then Lisa Morrison began to clap. Slowly, others joined her. Soon the entire square erupted in applause. Jake looked at his daughter. You really want to stay? Dad, Lisa replied. This is our home, and humans don't abandon their homes. Across human space, similar scenes played, out on 11 other worlds. The die was cast. Humanity had refused to withdraw. Commander Sam Parker gripped the arms of his captain's chair as the UNSC Vigilant shook under enemy fire. Through the bridge windows, he could see the sleek alien ships moving like deadly fish through the darkness of space. Shields down to 40%, reported Lieutenant Amy Collins from her station. Their weapons are cutting right through our defenses. Parker watched 3 more human destroyers explode in brilliant flashes of light. The Corvani demonstration fleet had arrived at Titan's Rest exactly as promised. 12 alien warships against Parker's 5 destroyers. It should have been a slaughter. It was a slaughter, but not the kind the Corvani expected. Target their lead ship, Parker ordered. All weapons, full power. The Vigilant's main guns fired, sending streams of energy toward the nearest Corvani vessel. The beam struck the alien ship's crystalline hull and scattered like light hitting a mirror. No damage to enemy vessel, reported Weapons Officer Tony Martinez. Parker studied the tactical display. His ships were dying one by one, but he was learning something valuable. Martinez switched to kinetic rounds, concentrated fire on the same spot. Sir, kinetic rounds barely scratch their armor in the simulation runs. Do it anyway. The Vigilant fired again, this time sending solid metal projectiles at incredible speed toward the alien ship. The first dozen rounds bounced off harmlessly, but round 13 found a weak spot where 2 armor plates met. A tiny crack appeared in the alien hull. There, Parker said, pointing at the tactical screen. Their armor has stress points. Mark that location and keep firing. 3 more destroyers died before Parker's discovery could make a difference. But the UNSC Falcon managed to punch a hole through a Corvani cruiser's hull before being destroyed herself. It was humanity's first success against alien technology. Parker opened a channel to all remaining human ships. "This is Commander Parker. The alien armor can be cracked. Target the junction points between plates. Concentrate all fire on single locations." The Vigilant died 2 minutes later, but not before sending the tactical data to Admiral Grant's main fleet. On the surface of Titan's Rest, Colony Director Amy Sullivan stood in the Emergency Command Center deep beneath the main settlement. The mining colony was small compared to places like New Denver, but it was home to 30,000 people. "Ma'am, the evacuation ships are ready," reported her assistant, Carl Thompson. "We can have everyone off planet in 6 hours." Sullivan watched the orbital battle through the communication feeds. Human ships dying in bright explosions while alien vessels moved untouched through space. "Cancel the evacuation." "Ma'am, you heard me. Cancel it." Sullivan turned to face the room full of mining supervisors and security personnel. "These aliens think they can just show up and take our home. They're wrong." Roy Martinez, chief engineer of the main mining facility, stepped forward. "Amy, what are you thinking?" "I'm thinking we have the biggest mining operation in human space. Plasma cutters that can slice through solid rock, heavy machinery that can move mountains, explosive charges designed to crack open asteroids." She smiled grimly. "Sounds like weapons to me." An hour later, Corvani ground forces landed expecting easy surrender. Instead, they found humans waiting with improvised weapons and absolute determination to fight. The aliens were tall, elegant beings with pale blue skin and large black eyes. They moved with grace and carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Their battle armor was the same crystalline material as their ship hulls, but they had never fought anyone like humans before. The first Corvani patrol encountered Bill Stevens, leading a team of miners armed with plasma cutters. The aliens raised their weapons, expecting the humans to flee. Instead, Stevens and his people charged. 3 miners died in the first exchange of fire. But Bill Stevens managed to get close enough to use his industrial plasma cutter on a Corvani warrior's armor. The tool, designed to cut through solid rock, sliced the aliens' protection like paper. The psychological impact was immediate. The Corvani had never seen beings willing to charge superior firepower. They had never encountered enemies who chose death over surrender. Amy Sullivan coordinated the defense from her underground command post. Team 7, they're advancing on the North Processing Plant. Team 12, fall back to prepared positions. In Tunnel Complex C, the mining colony's layout worked in humanity's favor. Tunnels and caverns provided cover and allowed for ambush tactics. The Corvani, used to open battle and superior technology, found themselves struggling in close quarters combat. Roy Martinez led the most successful attack. His team used mining explosives to collapse a tunnel on top of a Corvani assault squad. "These aliens might have better weapons," he radioed to Sullivan, "but they don't know how to fight dirty." The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, Titan's Rest was a burning ruin. But the cost to the Corvani had been shocking. They expected to lose perhaps a dozen soldiers to subdue a mining colony. Instead, they lost over 200. Most importantly, Roy Martinez and 11 other survivors managed to record everything. The footage showed humans charging alien battle mechs with nothing but mining equipment and courage. It showed ordinary people choosing to fight impossible odds rather than surrender their homes. The images reached every human colony within hours. Dr. Elena Vasquez studied the intercepted Corvani communications in her laboratory aboard the Defiance. The alien language was complex, but their translation computers were getting better at understanding it. "Admiral Grant, you need to see this," she called over the intercom. Grant arrived in the lab within minutes. "What do you have, Doctor?" Vasquez pointed to the translated text on her screen. "This is from the Corvani fleet commander at Titan's Rest. He's reporting to his superiors about the battle." Grant read the translation. The alien commander described human tactics as incomprehensible and contrary to survival logic. He reported that humans fought without regard for preservation of individual existence, and showed attachment to geographical locations beyond rational explanation. They don't understand us, Vasquez explained. Look at this phrase here. He says humans exhibit defective preservation instincts. In Corvani culture, when faced with superior force, the logical response is immediate surrender. What about their response to our resistance? Vasquez pulled up another communication. This is from the Corvani High Command. They're ordering increased force levels for all future human contacts. But Admiral, look at the language they're using. Grant studied the alien text. Words like honor and warrior status appeared throughout the message. They're treating us differently now, Vasquez continued. Before, we were just another inferior species to be swept aside. Now, they're calling us warriors. They're giving us what they consider the honor of a real fight. Grant understood immediately. They're not trying to conquer us anymore. They're trying to destroy us. Exactly. The Corvani have two protocols for dealing with other species. Submission protocol for the weak and extinction protocol for the strong. We've just graduated to extinction protocol. That night, Admiral Grant called an emergency conference with all colonial governments. The holographic displays showed the faces of leaders from 12 different worlds. Jake Morrison from New Denver spoke first. Admiral, we've all seen the footage from Titan's Rest. Our people are ready to fight. The question is whether we can win, replied Governor Helen Brooks from the industrial world of Factory 7. Grant shared Dr. Vasquez's analysis of the Corvani communications. They're changing their entire approach to dealing with us. This is no longer about forcing our surrender. They're going to try to wipe us out completely. Then we'd better get ready, said Lisa Morrison, now serving as New Denver's military coordinator. Because humanity doesn't go quietly into the night. The meeting lasted 4 hours. When it ended, every human colony had committed to total resistance. They would share resources, technology, and tactical information. Most importantly, they would adopt the lesson learned at Titan's Rest. Humans fight differently not because they're better warriors, but because they fight for different reasons. The Corvani Empire was about to learn that some species cannot be intimidated, conquered, or reasoned with. Some species simply refuse to quit no matter what the odds. As the conference ended, Admiral Grant looked out at the stars. Somewhere in that darkness, alien fleets were preparing for war. But humanity was preparing too, and humans had one advantage the Corvani couldn't understand. They were fighting for home. The message from the Corvani High Command was short and brutal. Admiral Lucas Grant read it 3 times before calling his senior staff to the briefing room aboard the UNSC Liberty. They're implementing something called Total Cleansing Protocol, Grant announced to the assembled officers. Every human world will be sterilized. No survivors, no negotiations, complete extinction. Colonel Mary Turner, Grant's chief of staff, studied the intelligence reports. Sir, our sources indicate they're mobilizing their entire military. Over 10,000 ships across 50 fleets. Captain Andy Clark, the fleet's intelligence officer, added grimly. They're also recalling all forces from other territories. This isn't just about removing us from their space anymore. They want humanity eliminated completely. Grant looked out at the stars through the briefing room's main window. Somewhere in that darkness, human colonies were preparing for the greatest battle in their species' history. How long do we have? He asked. 6 weeks, maybe 8, Turner replied. But sir, there's something else. Our covert teams behind enemy lines are reporting unusual activity. Entire Corvani support species are being relocated. It's like they're clearing the area for something massive. Dr. Elena Vasquez joined the meeting via holographic link from her research station. Admiral, I've been analyzing Corvani cultural data. Total cleansing protocol isn't just military strategy. It's a ritual. They consider it the highest honor they can give to a worthy enemy. Honor? Grant asked. In their culture, most species are simply swept aside as obstacles. But species that prove themselves as warriors are given the honor of total war. Complete destruction, but with respect for their fighting ability. Grant understood the implications immediately. They're not trying to conquer us anymore. They're trying to prove they can destroy us. On the fortress world of Iron Gate, General Pat Cooper faced the largest ground invasion in human history. 2 million Corvani shock troops had landed on the planet's 3 continents, supported by orbital bombardment and air superiority. Cooper's forces numbered 100,000 Marines, plus whatever civilian volunteers could be armed and trained. The odds were 20-1 against humanity. "General, the enemy has taken the northern settlements," reported Colonel Dave Wilson, his tactical coordinator. "They're advancing on the main population centers." Cooper studied the tactical displays in his underground command center. "What about our environmental warfare protocols?" Staff Sergeant Tim Walsh, who had been leading reconnaissance missions behind enemy lines, stepped forward. "Sir, it's working better than we hoped. The Corvani can't function in the toxic zones we've created around the industrial areas. Their atmosphere suits fail after a few hours of exposure." This was humanity's newest discovery. Corvani physiology was extremely sensitive to environmental changes. Radiation levels that humans could tolerate with basic protection were lethal to the aliens. Chemical compounds that caused minor respiratory irritation in humans completely disabled Corvani neural functions. "How many toxic zones can we create?" Cooper asked. "With the industrial facilities and chemical plants, we could make half the planet uninhabitable for Corvani forces," Walsh replied. "But sir, it would also be dangerous for our own people." Cooper made the decision that would define the Battle of Iron Gate. "Do it. Our people can survive in conditions that kill them. That's our advantage." Within hours, human forces began systematically poisoning their own planet. Chemical plants released toxic gases. Nuclear facilities vented controlled amounts of radiation. Industrial centers pumped pollutants into the atmosphere. The psychological impact on Corvani forces was devastating. They had never encountered an enemy willing to destroy their own world to deny it to invaders. Captain Betty Hayes led a Marine unit in the ruins of New Berlin, the planet's former capital. Her soldiers wore radiation suits and breathing gear, fighting in an environment that would kill unprotected humans within hours. "Hayes to Cooper," she radioed. "The aliens are falling back from Sector 7. They can't operate in these conditions." "Copy. That, Captain. Push forward. Make them pay for every street." The urban warfare that followed was unlike anything in military history. Human forces moved through toxic ruins while Corvani troops struggled with failing equipment and environmental poisoning. Buildings became death traps. Streets became chemical warfare zones. Private Carl Johnson, barely 19 years old, held a critical intersection with just 5 other Marines against a Corvani assault company. When his squad ran out of ammunition, they used improvised explosive devices made from industrial chemicals. "This is Johnson," he radioed as alien forces closed in. "We're out of conventional weapons, but we're not done fighting." Johnson's squad held their position for 6 hours using nothing but determination and improvised weapons. When reinforcements finally arrived, they found the intersection littered with disabled Corvani equipment and 3 surviving Marines still fighting. Meanwhile, Intelligence Officer Captain Andy Clark led the most dangerous missions of the war, covert operations behind enemy lines. His teams, working with colonial resistance cells, targeted Corvani supply lines and communication networks. "Clark to base," he transmitted from deep inside enemy territory. "We've identified a critical weakness. The aliens rely completely on subservient species for logistic support. If we can turn those species against them, their entire supply chain collapses." Clark's discovery led to humanity's most successful psychological warfare campaign. Human agents made contact with enslaved species throughout Corvani territory, spreading word of human resistance and offering alliance against their alien masters. The results exceeded all expectations. Species that had served the Corvani for centuries began sabotaging supply shipments and communication networks. Some openly rebelled, forcing the aliens to divert resources to suppress uprisings across their empire. Dr. Helen Brooks, a comparative biology researcher on the research station Omega-7, made the breakthrough that would change the course of the war. Working with tissue samples from captured Corvani equipment, she discovered the aliens' greatest weakness. "Admiral Grant, I've found something incredible. she reported via encrypted communication. Corvani neural functions depend on specific electromagnetic frequencies. Disrupt those frequencies and they lose motor control, memory, even basic life support functions. Can we weaponize this discovery? Grant asked. Already working on it. We can modify our communication arrays to broadcast disruptive frequencies. Any planet with a standard communication network can become uninhabitable for Corvani forces. The technology was implemented within days. Suddenly, human worlds could defend themselves using nothing but modified radio transmitters. The aliens' technological superiority became meaningless when they couldn't function in the electromagnetic environment humans created. The most devastating battle of this phase occurred at New Sahara, humanity's largest population center outside Earth. Governor Steve Martinez refused evacuation orders and coordinated the defense of 10 million civilians. When Corvani orbital bombardment began, Martinez implemented the most audacious defense plan in human history. The entire population retreated into vast underground tunnel systems originally built for mining operations. They want our planet, Martinez announced to his people. They can have the surface. We'll fight them from below. The tunnel war that followed lasted 3 months. Humans moved through underground networks, emerging to attack alien forces before disappearing back into the depths. The Corvani, used to open battle and superior firepower, found themselves trapped in endless guerrilla warfare. Sarah Kim, a former mining engineer, led civilian resistance teams through tunnels that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. The aliens control the sky and the surface, she told her volunteers. But down here we know every passage, every shortcut, every place to hide. The psychological impact on Corvani forces was catastrophic. They had expected to occupy a conquered planet. Instead, they found themselves fighting an invisible enemy that could strike anywhere and disappear without a trace. By the end of the 4th month of total cleansing protocol, the Corvani Empire faced a situation they had never encountered. They were losing a war of extinction against a supposedly inferior species. Admiral Grant received the most shocking intelligence report of the entire conflict. Human forces, using captured Corvani vessels, had begun launching offensive operations against alien territory. Sir, the UNSC Retribution, operating with a mixed human and alien resistance crew, has successfully attacked 3 Corvani supply bases in the Zentari system, reported Captain Clark. Grant studied the tactical reports with amazement. How is this possible? The resistance movements we started are spreading faster than we expected, Clark explained. Dozens of species are joining the fight against the Corvani. They're providing us with ships, weapons, and intelligence. For the first time since the war began, Admiral Grant allowed himself to hope. Humanity was not just surviving. They were inspiring a galaxy-wide rebellion against Corvani rule. The war was about to enter its final phase, and the outcome was no longer certain. The agricultural world of green fields looked peaceful from space. Golden wheat fields stretched across 3 continents while blue oceans reflected the light of twin suns. But Admiral Lisa Chang knew that peace was about to end forever. Enemy, fleet detected, reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Bob Harrison. 67 Corvani vessels approaching from the outer system. Chang stood on the bridge of the UNSC Liberty, humanity's newest carrier. Her defense fleet numbered only 12 ships, but they were loaded with the latest modifications based on data from Titan's Rest. All ships, begin ramming approach, Chang ordered. Remember, we're not trying to win a traditional battle. We're trying to hurt them so badly they think twice about the next fight. Captain Tony Bennett acknowledged from the destroyer UNSC Harvest. Copy that, Admiral. My ship is loaded with extra explosives and ready for final approach. The Corvani fleet moved in perfect formation, expecting another easy victory. They had refined their tactics since Titan's Rest, bringing overwhelming force to crush human resistance quickly. They were not prepared for what humans did next. The UNSC Defender, commanded by Captain Julie Adams, accelerated to maximum speed and aimed directly at the largest Corvani battleship. The alien vessel's weapons tore the human destroyer apart, but Adams kept her ship on target even as her bridge filled with smoke and fire. All hands, prepare for impact, were her last words before the Defender struck the alien ship at nearly 10% of light speed. The collision tore both vessels apart in a brilliant explosion that lit up the night sky on green fields below. It was humanity's first major victory against Corvani forces, bought with the lives of 300 brave men and women. Captain Bennett watched from the harvest as 2 more human ships followed Adams's example. "That's how we do it," he said to his crew. "We make them pay for every inch." But Bennett had a different mission. Instead of ramming, he used the confusion of the battle to get close to a Corvani cruiser. At the last moment, he ordered his crew to abandon ship and set the harvest's fusion reactor to overload. The explosion destroyed not just the enemy cruiser, but damaged 3 other Corvani ships. It was the first time human weapons had inflicted serious damage on alien technology. On the planet's surface, Colony Governor Jack Stevens coordinated the evacuation of non-combatants while organizing every able-bodied civilian into militia units. Greenfields was home to 8 million people, mostly farmers and food processing workers. "Amy, get those children to the underground shelters," Stevens ordered his chief administrator, Amy Wilson. "Ben, how many weapons do we have?" "Security." Chief Ben Russell checked his inventory. "Agricultural plasma tools, hunting rifles, some old military surplus from the Colonial Security Force. Maybe enough to arm 50,000 people." Stevens' wife, Dr. Carol Stevens, looked up from her medical preparations. "Jack, we have 8 million people on this planet. 50,000 weapons won't be enough." "Then we'll have to get creative," Stevens replied. "What about the farm equipment? Tractors, harvesters, irrigation systems?" Dr. Carol Stevens understood immediately. Tractors can be converted into armored vehicles. Harvesters have powerful cutting tools. Irrigation systems could deliver chemical weapons. The idea spread quickly. Within hours, farmers across green fields were converting their equipment into weapons of war. John Parker, who had been growing wheat for 20 years, turned his massive harvesting machine into a mobile weapons platform. "If they want our planet," Parker told his neighbors, "they'll have to go through every farmer, every field, and every grain of soil." Meanwhile, on the industrial moon of Factory 7, plant manager Nick Torres faced a different challenge. His facility employed 30,000 workers producing everything from consumer goods to spacecraft components. "Nick, we've got maybe 4 days before the Corvani arrive," reported his production supervisor, Linda Clark. "What do you want us to make?" Torres studied the production schedules on his desk. "Forget the regular orders. Convert every production line to military hardware. Weapons, armor, ammunition, whatever our people need to fight." Chief of Security Brenda Foster joined the meeting. "I've been studying the factory layout. We can turn this place into a fortress. The main assembly halls have reinforced walls. The cooling systems could hide defensive positions. The cargo tunnels connect every part of the facility." Torres nodded. "Do it, and Brenda, I want every worker trained in basic combat. Welders, technicians, janitors, everyone." The transformation of Factory 7 was remarkable. Within 72 hours, the peaceful manufacturing facility had become a military production center. Assembly lines that once built household appliances now produced plasma rifles. Workers who had never held weapons learned to fight alongside security personnel. Dr. Claire Morgan, the facility's material scientist, made a crucial breakthrough. "Nick, I've been experimenting with local asteroid minerals. We can create composite armor that's lighter than steel but nearly as strong as Corvani crystalline materials. How fast can you produce it?" "With the entire facility working around the clock? Enough to outfit 20,000 people in 3 days." Torres smiled grimly. "Then that's what we'll do. If the Corvani want this moon, they'll have to fight every single person on it." The breakthrough that changed everything came from an unexpected source. Colonel Frank Butler, leading a special operations team aboard the damaged Corvani cruiser from the Greenfields battle, made a discovery that would reshape the entire war. "Admiral Chang, you need to hear this," Butler radioed from inside the alien ship. Chang's voice crackled through the communication system. "What did you find, Colonel?" "These aliens run everything from central command nodes. Take out the bridge, and the entire ship becomes helpless. Take out their fleet commander, and entire fleets lose coordination. Butler's team had boarded the crippled Corvani vessel expecting to find advanced technology. Instead, they found a weakness that could be exploited. The aliens' strength was their perfect organization and coordination. But that same organization made them vulnerable if their command structure was disrupted. "Admiral, I'm uploading tactical data now," Butler continued. "These ships have minimal backup systems. They're designed to work as part of a coordinated fleet, not as independent units." The information reached human forces across all 12 colonies within hours. Suddenly, the impossible war seemed slightly less impossible. On New Denver, Jake Morrison studied the new tactical data with his daughter Lisa and their military advisors. "So if we can target their command ships first, the rest of their fleet becomes vulnerable?" "That's the theory," Lisa replied. "But it means getting close enough to identify and attack their command vessels." "Then that's what we'll do," Jake said. "Send word to all our pilots. We're going to start hunting Corvani commanders." The Battle of New Montana became the test of this new strategy. When Corvani forces arrived expecting another easy conquest, they found human defenders using completely different tactics. Instead of trying to match the aliens' superior firepower, human ships focused entirely on identifying and destroying command vessels. Pilots like Captain Steve Martinez flew suicide missions to take out Corvani fleet commanders. "This is Martinez," he radioed as his fighter approached the enemy flagship. "I'm going to ram their command bridge. Make sure everyone knows how this is done." Martinez's sacrifice disabled the Corvani command ship, leaving 30 alien vessels without coordination. Human forces, led by Admiral Grant himself, swept in to destroy the confused enemy fleet. It was humanity's first major fleet victory, and it came at a terrible cost. But the message was clear. Humans had found a way to fight back. Dr. Elena Vasquez, studying intercepted Corvani communications after the battle, found evidence that the aliens were beginning to fear human tactics. "They're calling us Chaos Warriors," she reported to Admiral Grant. "They don't understand how we can coordinate without central command. They don't understand how individual humans can make tactical decisions without orders from above." Grant smiled. "That's because they've never faced anyone who fights for something bigger than themselves. Every human out there knows what they're fighting for. They don't need orders to tell them to protect their families." As reports came in from all 12 colonies, a pattern emerged. Humans were not just resisting, they were adapting. Every battle taught them something new about their enemies. Every defeat showed them a better way to fight. The Corvani Empire, for the first time in 2 millennia, was facing an enemy they could not understand or predict. And that enemy was getting stronger with every battle. Admiral Lucas Grant stood on the bridge of the captured Corvani battleship Eternal Victory, watching his impossible fleet prepare for the most audacious military operation in galactic history. 53 vessels surrounded his flagship, their hulls painted with human insignia and operated by crews who had learned alien technology through trial, error, and desperate necessity. "Admiral, all ships report ready for the jump to Corvax Prime," announced Captain Julie Adams, his new fleet coordinator. She had survived the Battle of Green Fields and now commanded a cruiser crewed entirely by volunteers from destroyed colonies. Grant looked around the alien bridge, its crystalline surfaces now decorated with human equipment and modifications. "Ladies and gentlemen, in 30 minutes we're going to do something that every military advisor said was impossible. We're going to attack the Corvani homeworld." Commander Roy Martinez, the former mining engineer who now served as Grant's tactical advisor, studied the invasion plans. "Sir, our intelligence suggests Corvax Prime is defended by over 500 warships. Even with our captured vessels, we're outnumbered 10 to 1. Roy, when has that ever stopped us?" Grant replied with a grim smile. "Besides, we're not trying to conquer their planet. We're trying to prove a point. The point was simple, but revolutionary. No species in the galaxy was untouchable. For 2,000 years, the Corvani had spread terror throughout space by appearing invincible. Human forces were about to demonstrate that even the mightiest empire could be reached and challenged in its own home." Dr. Elena Vasquez's voice came, through the communication system from her station aboard the research vessel Discovery. Admiral, our psychological warfare broadcasts are ready. When we arrive at Korvax Prime, every Corvani receiver in the system will be flooded with evidence of our victories and their defeats. This was humanity's secret weapon, the power of impossible stories. For months, human agents had been broadcasting throughout Corvani space, telling the story of a small species that refused to surrender. The psychological impact on an empire built on the foundation of inevitable conquest was devastating. The jump to Korvax Prime took 6 hours. When Grant's fleet emerged from hyperspace, they found the alien homeworld exactly as their intelligence had predicted, heavily defended, completely confident, and utterly unprepared for what humans were about to do. Enemy fleet approaching, reported Lieutenant Bob Harrison from the sensor station. 473 vessels in defensive formation around the planet. Grant opened communication channels to his entire fleet. All ships, remember the plan. We're not here to win a traditional battle. We're here to deliver a message. Make every shot count. The battle began immediately. Corvani defenders responding to the unprecedented attack on their home world, launched everything they had at the human fleet. Energy beams and plasma weapons lit up space as the two forces clashed above the alien capital. But this battle was different from all previous engagements. Human forces, now experienced in fighting Corvani tactics, had learned to turn the alien strengths against them. When enemy fleets tried to coordinate their attacks, human ships targeted command vessels first. When alien forces relied on superior firepower, humans used unpredictable tactics that couldn't be countered by better technology. Captain Steve Martinez, commanding the converted destroyer New Hope, led his ship directly through the enemy formation. This is Martinez to all ships. Remember what we learned at New Montana. Hit their command structure and their coordination falls apart. Martinez's sacrifice disabled the lead Corvani command ship, creating chaos throughout the defensive fleet. Other human vessels, following his example, penetrated deep into enemy formations before detonating their reactors among clustered alien ships. Major Ben Russell led the most critical mission of the entire operation. His commando team, launched from the Eternal Victory, aimed for Korvax Prime's planetary defense grid. Their goal was not destruction, but demonstration. Russell to Grant, he radioed as his team's transport ship descended through the planet's atmosphere. We're approaching the primary defense control center. Russell's commandos fought through Corvani security forces using the same tactics that had proven successful throughout the war: unpredictability, determination, and willingness to sacrifice everything for the mission. When conventional weapons failed, they used improvised explosives. When outnumbered, they used the aliens' own equipment against them. The breakthrough came when Russell's team reached the main control room. Instead of destroying the planetary defenses, they did something the Corvani never expected. They took control of the system and used it to broadcast a message throughout their empire. The message was simple but earth-shattering. In perfect Corvani language translated by Dr. Vasquez's team, it said, "This is humanity. Your capital world lies at our mercy. We choose to spare it. We did not come here to conquer. We came here to prove that no empire is untouchable when it threatens the innocent." The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Throughout Corvani space, subjugated species heard that the impossible had happened. Someone had reached the untouchable homeworld and chosen mercy over destruction. Emperor Zaxxon of the Corvani personally contacted President Karen Walsh on Earth within hours of the broadcast. The alien ruler, speaking through translation protocols that had never been used for diplomatic communication, admitted something no Corvani had ever acknowledged. Human leader Walsh, the Emperor's voice came through the quantum communication. Link, we do not understand your species. You fight for things that have no strategic value. You sacrifice for beings who cannot repay the debt. You choose death over submission when logic demands surrender. Walsh, surrounded by her advisors in the White House Situation Room, responded carefully. Your Majesty, perhaps that's exactly why you cannot defeat us. You see our colonies as resources to be abandoned when threatened. We see them as family to be protected. You calculate odds and minimize losses. We fight until the last human falls. This behavior is incomprehensible, the Emperor replied. You could have destroyed our capital. You had the power to kill billions of our people. Instead, you broadcast a message of mercy. Why? Because, Walsh answered, that's who we are. We don't fight to destroy others. We fight to protect our own. When you threatened our colonies, you forced us to fight. But we never wanted to destroy you. The conversation lasted 4 hours and changed the course of galactic history. For the first time in Corvani memory, their emperor negotiated with another species as equals. The immediate result was the Corvani withdrawal from human space, but the long-term consequences were far more significant. Throughout the Empire, subjugated species began demanding the same treatment humans had won through resistance. The Corvani Empire, built on the foundation of inevitable conquest, crumbled. When faced with beings who proved that conquest was never inevitable, within a year, dozens of species claimed independence. The 2,000-year-old empire dissolved as its client states chose freedom over security. 5 years later, Admiral Grant, now retired, stood in the Memorial Garden on New Denver with Jake Morrison, now an old man but still serving as the colony's elder advisor. Admiral, do you think we did the right thing? Jake asked, looking at the names carved into the memorial wall. Thousands of humans had died to defend worlds that many people, back on Earth, had considered worthless. Grant watched children playing in the rebuilt town square. These were the children born after the war, growing up free because their parents had refused to surrender. Jake, look around you. This place exists because people like your daughter Lisa believed it was worth fighting for. Every human colony in space exists because ordinary people decided their homes were worth defending. Lisa Morrison, now leading a xenobiology expedition to former Corvani worlds, had sent a message that morning. Her research teams, working alongside scientists from newly independent species, were documenting the diversity of life that had survived the Empire's expansion. The final scene of humanity's war took place not on a battlefield, but in a university classroom on Earth. Dr. Elena Vasquez, teaching a course on xenopsychology, explained to her students what the war had really been about. The Corvani Empire fell not because humans were better warriors, she told the class, but because we fought for reasons they couldn't understand. They saw warfare as a calculation of costs and benefits. We saw it as a matter of family and home. A student raised her hand. Professor, what's the most important lesson from the war? Vasquez smiled. That sometimes the greatest strength doesn't come from superior technology or overwhelming numbers. Sometimes it comes from the simple, stubborn refusal to give up on the people and places you love. Outside the classroom window, Earth's blue ocean sparkled in the sunlight. But humanity's true home now stretched across dozens of star systems, populated by people who had learned that freedom is something you fight for, not something you're given. The galaxy had learned the human doctrine. No empire is strong enough to defeat people who refuse to quit when defending what they love. It was a lesson that would echo through the stars for generations to come. In the memorial gardens on 12 different worlds, the same inscription appeared beneath the names of those who had died.